Hi everybody, it's Trudy here. One Grounded Angel, as many of you know me, and this is a weekly angel card reading for the week starting the 8th of November through to the 14th, 2021. So we'll start shuffling for this week and see what's going to potentially be on our minds or maybe just get clarity on what it is we need to know to help us deal with whatever's showing up in our lives. And this is a strong start to the week for Monday. This is an Egyptian goddess called Bast. May have said that wrong, I apologise. Independent is the message. So often what comes up when I'm doing a personal reading for people is actually the opposite of independence, it's codependence. So that may be the message for you. So I'll start with that. Codependence is when we're too dependent on other people. We always have a degree of dependence on people, but we can't be over dependent to the point where, and this often shows up in romantic relationships, but also in parent-child relationships, when we're so dependent on the other person to provide our sense of identity, our worth, our value, our everything that we believe in, make all our decisions for us. Everything is contingent on that person. Particularly problematic because it puts a lot of pressure on that person, and it also means that all your emotional state is governed by that person. And if the relationship ends for some reason, maybe they pass away, you're going to be really left adrift because you've depended so much on that person that you don't know who you are. So that may be something for you to think about. It's a spectrum. Are you too far in the codependent side and not far enough in the independent? Or equally, are you too far in the independent side? We see this a lot. Well, I see this a lot sometimes with people who are single people who are wanting to attract a healthy relationship, and they've been single so long that they've really carved out an identity where I don't need anyone. They've built themselves into this tower inadvertently. That wasn't their intention, but it's happened that they've fashioned a world where they don't need anybody at all. And so they never ask people for advice. They never get support from other people. They never show their emotions to people. There's no sharing. There's no vulnerability. People stop interacting with them to the extent that would require an emotional depth there, because they see everybody thinks they're so strong they don't need me. And so that's not helpful. I'm talking about friendships here mostly, but of course that can happen in romantic relationships. So yeah, does one of those sound like it's a bit much for you? If so, you might like to start working on what is going on underneath that. It's not just about addressing the ways that you are too dependent or too independent. It's about looking at what's going on underneath to drive that. And if it's the codependency side, it'll be low self-worth for sure. If you've outsourced responsibility for your entire identity to another person, it's usually because you don't feel like you're good enough on your own. You've started from a deficit in terms of your worth. So if that's the case, I'd really recommend you reach out to an energy healer or some sort of therapist to help you with that. It's going to take a bit of work, but it's worth doing because it's hard to have healthy relationships from that position. If you're in the independent state, depending on where you fall, that might be also something you need to think about, getting an expert help, and also thinking about what are the reasons that you've done that. Is it because there's a fear of intimacy? Is there a fear of vulnerability? Is there a fear of or perhaps an anxiety around being seen by other people, or being hurt? That's often what it is. It's being hurt. Yeah, but also I think, I'll read you this sentence and see what you make of it. Your independence is a foundation for your strength and success. So there is a positive side. I know it sounds like what I've shared already makes it sound like it's a bit of a challenging message, but there is a positive side here. We can look back on what we've achieved in our lives and see how the ways that we have looked after ourselves and forged our own strength can be a source of pride, and that can help us moving forward as well. So that's Monday. Looking at Tuesday. Tuesday is here and now. Another beautiful image from this delightful card deck called Wisdom of the Oracle. The thing that stands out most here is we've got one arrow pointing to the past and another pointing to the future. So very much about being in the present. A lot of people talk about wanting to be more present. I certainly talk about that a lot. It's something that I work on. But it isn't possible to stay there all the time. It's not really, we're human. We're going to naturally reflect on the past. We're going to naturally think about the future and worry about how things are going to work out. But it's just about how much time you spend in those sort of zones. It's not about ignoring or avoiding them completely. It's about making sure that those don't dominate your emotional landscape. So I find this a lot. I do it when I'm out walking the dogs, for example, trying to bring my awareness back to what's going on, the nature around me, what the dogs are doing, rather than being in my head thinking about that thing the email I've got to send later, or what I need to get from the grocery store. Just coming back into just letting that go and being right here. But as I say, I can't stay there forever because naturally other things will come in. So meditation is obviously a very powerful way that we can get better at being more present. And I do find that when I am doing that regularly, I am reaping the rewards of that outside of that meditation as well. It's not just in that zone. So that can certainly be helpful, but it's not for everybody. And I know from personal experience it is hard to maintain on a regular basis. So don't beat yourself up too much if you've fallen off the meditation wagon. I totally hear that. So yeah, just being more present, and it can help you spend less time in the worry zone, which means you are more calm, very good for your stress levels. It can also help you with, your, I'm careful about how I say this. I was going to say it can help you with controlling your thoughts, but I don't think it's possible to ever really control your thoughts. But I do think it can help you get a measure of control. You're more able to notice and better able to circumvent when you're going down a negative thought spiral, when you are practicing meditation or mindfulness repeatedly. And there are lots of apps that can help you with that. And Wednesday's card is very on point. It's meditation. So everything I just said, looks like there's a theme emerging here already about us needing to look at where our thoughts are wandering and try and bring them into the present moment more regularly. As I say, it can help you with your stress levels, can help you feel more calm. It can also help with your intuitive connection, which is something that's obviously a big focus for me. And if you're watching this, probably is for you too. The intuition is a way of guiding us to make better decisions and have a greater understanding and intelligence about what's going on and what we need to learn and where we need to grow. But of course, it's hard to hear that when we've got so much worry energy going on in our heads. Can't really identify which is the intuition. So meditation is certainly one way to reconnect with that. Mindfulness, walking out in nature can certainly help us, but just noticing where the thoughts are going, I think that's really can be really powerful. Change of tune here for Thursday, relationship harmony. This is not just talking about romantic relationships. I know that's often where the first place people go with a message like this. It's about any type, friendships, family, even professional relationships. So the message is, we angels are opening the hearts of everyone involved. Arguments and conflicts are being resolved now. So it's about tension, and that's not saying, I know when I read this, it kind of gives the impression that the angels are going to fix the tension. It's not really what it's saying, but it is saying that there could be a shift in the way you think about this. And maybe it will start to bother you less, because let's not forget, with some conflicts, they don't actually get resolved. We just make peace with them, and then we set boundaries, we move away, or we learn to just accept that person for where they're at. Depends on the circumstances, of course, and the level of toxicity involved. But I don't want to give anyone the impression that this card is saying that your problems are going to disappear. That's not really how this works. But the angels are helping you with it. And so you might like to reflect on the issue and what's going on. Sometimes the reason we're in a conflict situation or a tension issue with someone is because we feel like we haven't been seen or we haven't been heard. And those are such basic human desires. And if they haven't been met, of course, we're going to feel really aggrieved by that. So one way to work that out is not to try and force your impression on the other person, because it may be that they're just not the sort of person who's ever going to listen to you. They're just not willing to do that for whatever reason. Write it down in a journal. Write it down as a letter, whatever you want to do. I often frame it as a letter to spirit, to the universe. You could write it to your angels, whatever feels good for you, and explain what was going on for you, what you need people, or what it is you wanted to say and be expressed, that you feel is not coming across. Because once we feel like we've poured it out to someone, we're going to feel a little bit lighter. It's not going to disappear, but we're going to feel a bit lighter. And equally, you could express this to a friend you trust who has the capacity to listen. We can't just put our stuff on people. Remember, we have to check in and say, are you, do you have the mental space to listen to this? And we can also try, seeing an expert, a therapist. They're obviously paid to listen, and they're very good at being neutral and helping us get clarity. But this certainly does indicate, as you can see from the rainbow, brighter times ahead. And whether that means that the conflict will reach a resolution, the two of you will be able to figure it out, or whether it means you'll just be able to live with it and make peace with it, it's not really clear. But certainly it's not going to be as great of a burden for you, is what the message is saying there. We're not meant to get along with everybody, and there's certainly no obligation to do so. But if you're a woman, you may have been brought up to think that your job or your value comes from people liking you. So it can be really difficult if some people just don't like you. Friday's message is shield yourself. I love how this angel here has a literal shield, like a warrior. The idea of shielding can be a little bit uncomfortable for some people who are sensitive or empaths, because they feel it is their job to know what other people are thinking and feeling. But what I would say to you is putting up an energetic shield around you won't stop you from picking up on what's going on with other people. It's going to stop you from making their problems your problem. And remember, I spoke about codependency at the start. Codependency often happens for empaths and sensitive people. Not always. Sometimes those things are not related. They are often confused by people, though. I've heard people say, I'm an empath, so I'm always going to be caught in these unhealthy relationships. And that's not the case. If you are an empath, if you are sensitive to other people's energies, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to always be in relationships with people who are going to be narcissists or who are going to be toxic. But if you're codependent, you've got a tendency towards codependency, then that may be a recurring pattern for you. But that's not necessarily the case that you have to tolerate it. It's absolutely ways to heal that. And if this is speaking to you, absolutely reach out to an energy healer. You don't have to tolerate this sort of stuff. So going back to the shielding, what it means is you're basically asking the universe to put you in a bubble, a protective bubble of light. You're still going to pick up on what's going on, but you're not going to be making it your stuff. You're not going to be coming home at the end of the day whinging and raging at your family because of the toxicity that you've taken on from other people. You're going to have better separation, letting go at the end of the day. You're not going to be defined by other people's experiences. But again, if you are codependent and you just feel like you have to go around rescuing people, that's a whole other thing, and you're going to need a lot more than shields. You're going to need to work on the reasons you keep doing that. So all you have to do, just ask Archangel Michael every morning. I do this every single morning. Don't always meditate, but this is the thing I always do. Place me in a protective shield of light, or a protective bubble of light for today, please. I'm often directed to Archangel Michael, but I don't necessarily always need to do that. And I can feel the difference when I forget, I really can. Hasn't been so much of an issue when I've been in lockdown. So I'm not moving about in the world, but I'm still on, in lockdown, I've still been online. So, and there is a lot of toxicity online. And some of you who follow me on Instagram might already know that I'm not posting on Instagram or being as active on Instagram as I used to for that reason. It's just too much. And there's only so much shielding can do. Ultimately, we still need to set boundaries. If something is just affecting us too much, we need to take a step back from it. And manage it differently. I'm never going to avoid social media entirely, but I certainly am going to set boundaries around it. So that was a bit of a diversion there, sorry. Coming back to Saturday's message now, an angel called Ariel. This is a message about spiritual development and enhancement. So it's talking about how your spiritual abilities may be being enhanced at the moment, and supporting you to develop that a bit more. So you might like to reach out and work with mentors, healers. You might like to do courses, workshops, read books, follow different people who resonate with you. We need to be careful that we don't take anything as gospel. We obviously need to discern it. For me personally, my own spiritual beliefs, I've picked up from various people, but I've rejected anything that doesn't feel right for me. I never take on anybody else's beliefs. ad nauseum. Ad nauseum's not the word, sorry, I can't think of the right word. As it is, verbatim, that was the word. I always, there are some things that really resonate with me, and so I will reflect on those and figure out my approach to it. Other things I'll go, that doesn't feel right for me. So we always need to be empowered enough to make our own judgments on what feels right for us. We can't just be parroting what other people are saying. Some of you may be getting called to step into your spirituality a little bit more, and this card sort of affirms that. It's also just at a very basic level asking you to listen to your intuition. Maybe you are getting a lot of prods from spirit at the moment to do something, to look something up, to step into something, to go to a certain place, and this is telling you to honour that, go with it, it's important. Maybe I do get a lot of people working with me who feel like they're getting called to start a spiritual practice, whether that's for them personally, as in maybe like a meditation practice or something like that, or in a professional realm, professional capacity, like doing readings for other people or mediumship work for other people or healing. And so sometimes a card like that can come up to really confirm that that's right for them. So if that's you, consider it a green light. Sunday's card is retreat. Needing to step away from the world. I just spoke about how I'm limiting my social media a lot more. Maybe that could be helpful for you. That's a form of retreat. Obviously there are literal forms of retreat. You might like to go on a retreat at the moment, but there are also everyday retreats, I guess. Not messaging with people who are draining you. Taking a bit of a retreat from the internet or Netflix or social media, for example. You might like to retreat from a particular friendship, or maybe you need to step away from something. Maybe it's a retreat from a particular narrative that's running in your head, or a thought process that's really taking more away from you than what it's giving you. So really just stepping away and reflecting. And there are helpful forms of reflection, and there are not so helpful forms of reflection. Those are the ones when we're really in overthinking mode, and we're in fear, and we're in trying to control, and that sort of stress. So that is a lot for a week, isn't it? I think this idea, as I mentioned, about being more cognizant of our thoughts and developing healthier mechanisms to manage them when we can, is coming through with that, certainly that meditation, that here and now, and I think the retreat as well. Could also speak to boundaries on that, in that message, because we've got this message about developing spiritual awareness and shielding. So this might be about you taking better care of yourself in a spiritual sense, but also in a practical sense. So that would be the boundaries. I don't think there's anything else we need to know here. Certainly a lot to think about, and that's all very appropriate because we are building towards a very significant supermoon. Is it a supermoon? It's an eclipse, certainly, next week, and I will tell you about that then. So thanks for being here, everybody. If you need to find out more information about the work I do, I work over Zoom, so I work with people all over the world. There's certainly no concerns regarding geography because I can work with people's energy just by, speaking to them or interacting with them virtually. So there's no need to be face to face. So anyway, my website is www.onegroundedangel.com, onegroundedangel.com. So you can find out a ton of information about that there. If you'd like to speak to me, I do, before I take bookings of new clients, I do a 5 to 10 minute chat over the phone, which can be done over WhatsApp so that it's free, no matter where in the world you are, just to connect with people, and that way I can answer your questions a bit better. And sometimes people just find by hearing my voice they feel a bit more reassured about whether this is right for them or whether it's not, perhaps. And it's a good way for me to find out if I can actually help you. I do, need to know before I take on a client that I'm actually the right person for them. Otherwise, it's a waste of time for both of us and a waste of money for you. So I don't want to go down that path. So that's why I have this chat before I take you on. And to book that, you just fill out a bookings form. So also my Instagram, I mentioned social media, @OneGroundedAngel is my handle, and I'm on Facebook as well.